Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Make It Happen podcast. Today's conversation is one I've been genuinely excited about. If you care about education, technology, equity, and what it really takes to create meaningful change, not just talk about it, this episode is for you. I'm joined by Robbie Cobbs, CEO of Tech My School, and Kyle Summerall, Director of Outreach and Development. Together, they're working on a technology not as just a shiny object, but as a tool to fundamentally improve teaching, learning, and opportunity, especially in places that have been historically underserved. Their work spans elite private schools, rural communities, international classrooms, and right now, with a deep focus on Puerto Rico, where American students are facing massive systemic gaps in access, infrastructure, and outcomes. Now, this isn't theory. This is boots on the ground change management built on mindset, leadership, and long-term partnership. We talk about what drives school transformation and what doesn't, why mindset matters more than money, how technology can empower, not overwhelm, the role AI can play when it's used responsibly and intentionally, and what it looks like to truly put your values into action. This conversation goes deep into education systems, leadership, personal stories, and the hard truths about equity and access. It's honest, thoughtful, and grounded in real experience. So whether you're an educator, administrator, technologist, or just someone who believes every kid deserves a real shot, stick with us and let's make it happen. What is up, everybody? It is me, Mike Vanderpool, and we are here today with the Make It Happen podcast. I have two special guests all the way from Puerto Rico, Tech My School, Robbie Cobbs, the CEO, and Kyle Summerall, the Director of Outreach and Development. So I'm really excited today because I have a background in education. I'm college faculty, got a background in instructional design. I'm also a super nerdy tech guy. Talking to both of you, I feel like we'll have a pretty in-depth, interesting conversation because you're doing some really cool stuff outside of the continental United States, kind of focused over there in Puerto Rico, but also doing stuff here stateside. So really excited to hear more about you. But first, Robbie and Kyle, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
So can you give me a little bit of just the general overview of what Tech My School is? And then I'd like to get into you both as people in the education space and why this matters so much to you.
Yeah, so Tech My School is an educational nonprofit. We focus on using technology as a tool, a lens, entry point into schools. But really what we care about most is teaching and learning. And Tech My School was founded on simply the fact that Puerto Rico being, an American territory, everyone here is an American citizen, Costco, National Park Services, the Postal Service, we still have the same little white, postal trucks driving down the streets. So it is 100% America, but the education system here is dramatically lower, worse, lower performing, et cetera, less, it's America's most underprivileged, underserved communities. And so for my own story, I kind of stumbled upon Puerto Rico just by chance. I wanted to go to a nice beach to write a book. And I wrote a book on ed tech called Tech-Centered Learning Driven. And during that time, while writing the book, I put my boys I have two sons, I put them in the local schools, and I was just absolutely shocked at the state of education here. And then as I kind of did some research as to, why this is the case and where they score statistically and those kinds of things, Puerto Rico scoring worse than Mexico public schools, worse than any European country, and are about, 3 to 5 grade levels lower than the continental US. I was just like flabbergasted, really, like these American kids are getting ripped off. This isn't okay. How can we go in and make a difference? And so being a technology enthusiast, a former tech director at, schools and a teacher and those kinds of things coming from that educational background, I was like, I got to help in some way. And it started with one school and then it kind of blew up and and it's become what it is now today.
Awesome. And Kyle, what about you? How did you get hooked up with Robbie here?
Yeah, Robbie and I go way back. Actually, he and I met teaching overseas. So he and I both started as educators in the States and then realized that there was this sort of magic button that you could press that would whisk you away to foreign lands and let you explore the world on someone else's dime while you teach kids like, American embassy kids or kids of diplomats from, 50 different countries. And international business people. So we were in the sort of the throes of that process and got to know each other in a hilarious turn of events. Robbie actually worked for me when we were in Saudi Arabia, and now I work for him. So he's loving every minute of this. But yeah, we've known each other. We've been friends for a long time. We've just had both of us have, I think, really importantly, not just a similar sort of vision about what technology does, can do, should be doing in education, but we also have a very similar view on sort of org structure and leadership. And I don't know that anybody was ever anybody's boss, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that I probably learned more from Robbie than he did from me when he was working for me. So, I mean, we've had kind of a 12-year bromance going on here that happens to benefit, I would say, the communities that we're in and the world that we inhabit. So yeah, I got on board for a lot of reasons. I started as a volunteer. I worked for a really, really like posh credit school here in Houston. So I was overseas for 10 years and then came back to Texas. I'm in Houston now. I was there for 5 years at this school here in town in Houston. Really expensive, like $35,000 a year tuition, had every privilege possible. And one of the things that happened was Robbie ended up coming to our school to, we brought him in to run the assessment process that we go through with schools that he had been using to help assess the schools that he was working with in Puerto Rico. And by the way, some of the schools that he works with in Puerto Rico are top-notch, top-tier private schools. That's not the majority of the schools we work with, but that is one of our ways that we make money. That's a revenue stream for us, is to provide services to schools that can pay. And then that money mixed with donor funds essentially allow us to serve the poorest schools for free. And so with that being said, I was a little dubious, to have him come in and say, well, you're working with these, really underprivileged schools in Puerto Rico. Of course you're helping them. Of course, whatever you do for them is helpful. But he came to my school and we ran this assessment, and he wouldn't tell me anything about it. He said, no, you're going to experience this as a client. And so he came in and I was just blown away with what we learned. And I told him after we went through the process, we learned so much about ourselves as a really high achieving. I mean, I'm talking one of the highest achieving private schools in Texas. It was no small thing for him to come in and basically wow us. And we learned so much from the process. I told him, I'm in whatever I can do to serve in this way. I want to be an agent of change, like what I can tell you're doing right now for schools. So yeah. And I've been on board for the last couple of years here. I've been only full-time just this past school year, but yeah, it's been a trip watching him sort of take even a lot of the work that we started together, more than a decade ago, working in a little international school in Saudi Arabia, and watching how he's taken the ball and run with it and transformed it and really systematized a lot of the things that, as educators we talk about, but don't often have systems in place or software available, or, don't have the means to be able to really, I think, make these systems fly, for you to be able to see growth in your organization the way that we have with the schools that we work with right now.
Are you a hybrid or remote first company searching for that perfect place where your team can connect in person? Well, look no further than the Toledo Tech Loft. Nestled right in the heart of downtown, the Toledo Tech Loft offers a welcoming, collaborative environment designed for teams just like yours. It's the ideal spot for remote workers to gather, brainstorm, and bring ideas to life, all while enjoying the vibrant downtown Toledo community. Whether you need a flexible meeting space or a creative hub to spark your next big project, the Toledo Tech Loft is where remote teams can find their home base. Come see how the Tech Loft can support your team's success. One of the things I experienced working on my Master's of Instructional Design, Learning Technology, I can't remember the full title, was a lot of the research during my literature review were phenomenal ideas, but they weren't necessarily always presented in ways that were applicable, right? Especially through administration and all the other things that educators have to work through or deal with in their day-to-day. I'm curious, from the perspective of having taught in Saudi Arabia, having worked with the more affluent schools, and then obviously the schools with less to work with, I have to assume that there's some similarities and the overlap, and then some vast differences. So what are some of the ways that we need to start thinking about the ecosystem that you're serving?
Yeah. So we've served schools in the slums of Kenya to top tier schools internationally and in the States, as well as all the schools here in Puerto Rico. And really what we do is we focus on three facets. So the first kind of lens that we look through is educational systems. So anything you can create, touch, or make, curriculum, software, computers, electricity, internet, all those kind of foundational things that you just need to have a school function. And we look for ways we can improve it. We have a whole analysis, checklist, etc. Then we look at building capacity within the staff. So what does adult learning look like in the building? How does the school think about professional growth? What is the mindset of collaboration? And how do we get everyone kind of rowing in the same direction? So it's all very much an adult learning capacity focus. And then the third lens is student empowerment. So how are we leveraging these two other things to really do what we want, which is giving kids skills to be successful in the future and today. And so looking at what students are actually doing and the artifacts that signify this growth. And so that's basically the three lenses we look at. And it doesn't really matter whether your school is high performing or low performing or whatever. This analysis that we do enables us to really cater to your school's strengths or weaknesses. We call it the individualized tech plan. So like an ITP, kind of like an IEP. Every kid is different. Every school is different. So that's kind of where the acronym comes from. But and again, we come in partnership with schools. So we're not coming in and telling you, hey, you need to do X, Y, Z. We're just asking a series of questions and giving you a series of rubrics to go through where you self-identify where you are based off of this, literature and based off these frameworks. And then we kind of sit and ask questions and prod and then, help you lead to conclusions that, whether it's us coming to them or you, they're just there based off that data. And then that individualized plan really helps the school move. And then that sits on a framework as well, like a 4-staged roadmap, I guess you could call it, that helps schools know where they are and then where they're going. And then we do this every single year.
And it sounds like then this is really the approach that you're taking is change management, right? When you're talking about an organization, typically ones that are have multiple people telling them what they're supposed to do and how to do it. Getting change to happen in education can sometimes be cumbersome. You're leveraging data and bringing them to their own realizations, which probably makes when you come in and say, hey, you should strongly consider doing this, they've already got the idea in their head. Is that kind of how this works?
Yeah, we have a series of rubrics and we just ask them to kind of grade themselves. Like, where do you think you are in this rubric and why? What are your justifiers? And then based off of that, because some schools, I'm not going to say they're delusional, but they're pretty overly optimistic or they think they're phenomenal when there's, glaring gaps. We just ask them, we just dig deeper. So why do you think you're this? And what, based off the rubric and what the rubric's saying, how do you fit there? And what are your justifiers and those kind of things? And ultimately, they're going to come to a conclusion that they feel the most comfortable with. For them, for us, it's not whether they rank themselves a 5 or 1 or a 3 or whatever. Our biggest thing is we want them to kind of place themselves on the map, identify their weaknesses and strengths, and then we come in at the end to kind of like add in suggestions. So when that plan is being created, we then, with our local team, are building strategies for them based off that data. And then we show it to them in partnership and say, okay, based off of what we're saying, where you're ranking yourself and where the needs are, here's where we think you guys can improve. And this is what the plan would be to fulfill this plan. How do you feel about that? And, this is what we think you guys should be doing. Do you think that as well? And then a lot of times we end up partnering with them and fulfilling it with them in partnership. So they're not just like having to do it themselves. And so that's, it's a dance, it's a balance.
Mike, I'd add to that too. One of your original question was about the connection and the similarities between the sort of the wealthy and the underprivileged schools. And I would say one thing that has been fascinating has been that there is a difference that you see in schools that has almost no correlation with their funding or their ability to sort of buy what they need to buy, right? Some schools are really well resourced financially and some are completely underfunded. And that thing is mindset. And that we have schools who have absolutely nothing that have incredible growth mindsets. And what that allows us to do is to be able to help them to really fulfill their vision, right? Every school has a mission and a vision, but their willingness to sort of work towards it and really fulfill their mission, it comes down to their mindset. And there are, conversely, there are super wealthy schools out there who have a really fixed mindset. They are maybe victims of their own success. Hey, our test score is already really great. What are we trying to fix here, right? But we come in and we use terminology like we believe that every person in the building can grow, students and adults alike. So that's a really important distinction to make. And the schools that we're really the most interested in long-term partnerships with are the ones that have a growth mindset. They are willing to say like, hey, I noticed LeBron James still has a coach. Does LeBron, if anybody doesn't need a coach, it's, LeBron James and Steph Curry, but Steph Curry has a coach that helps him get better at shooting free throws. Are you kidding? If Steph Curry believes he can get better at shooting free throws, then I think we need to believe that we can get better at what we do, no matter what we do.
And LeBron James is probably the first person at the gym every day.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and it's fascinating because I'm sure I'm making the assumption that you've run into a scenario where a school with nothing is doing more because they're not letting that be a crutch or a reason for them not to do more. Then I'm assuming there's some more affluent institutions who are like, oh, everything's good enough. Our students are going to private colleges and doing well, and they might do that with or without the school. So they might not be as forward thinking about making proactive changes. So fascinating area we play in here.
Yeah, we have we have two different frameworks that we, go by or, lean on when we're working with schools. One is an internal framework that we've built ourselves. And then the other framework is Robert Dilt's work. If you know of his work, levels of learning. And so really the golden piece to the puzzle is leadership buy-in. So if the leader at the top, the director, the head of school, the principal, whatever, if they believe in what we're doing is powerful and that can help the school, and they're modeling it with the teachers, going to the presentations, trying the new software, trying the new tools, really buying in, everyone else kind of falls in line. When the leader's kind of like, okay, this is cool. I like what you guys are doing. Just do it. I'm going to go in my office and, play categories or whatever. Then you're going to have a situation where the teacher are like, well, the principal he's not watching me. He doesn't seem that interested. I'm not going to be that interested. And then conversely, it could be in a situation where like, we just want free stuff. So come in with the free computers and the free software and the free trainings, but I'm not even going to tell my staff to be there. So we've had scenarios where like free was a bad price for a school because there's no buy-in. So there are some schools that we work with, we want to give everything for free to them, but because they're not, they're wasting our resource and time. Like they're not using the software, they're not putting their full effort doing presentations and trainings and stuff like that. So we have to actually tell them, hey, we want some buy-in from you financially. That way we know that you're bought in and you're going to do it. I mean, for example, we'll ask a school for $1,000 a month as a buy-in, but then in terms of goods and services, we'll give them like $80,000. So it's like we're giving them like 7x or 10x, whatever we're asking. But when the psychology of just like paying for something, it creates that buy-in. Whereas if it's just free, it's kind of like, man, it's free. Whether I use it or not, I'm still going to come there, so I'm not going to value it.
Yeah, when I got free college, I didn't show up. when I had to start paying for it, I got a little bit more out of it, right? I do want to talk more about Tech My School and some of what you've hinted at here on how this works and what you can do for schools here, maybe in Northwest Ohio, and then obviously other places you're looking to serve. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, like, as people who have taught all over the globe, what are the like biggest lessons that you've learned, like teaching Saudi Arabia or Kenya, wherever it's been? Like, what are the things that I'm an educator trying to serve a diverse population? Help me understand how I might be able to better do that based on your experience.
I have a few of them. Kids are kids. They're the same everywhere you go, and they all start out with the same curiosity. There's a quote by George Couros. He said that if kids leave us less curious than when we found them, then we failed them. And to me, like, that's a huge part of our role as educators, is to continue to make sure that kids they come to us curious. So we've got to make them even more curious, And so I think that's a really helpful lens to look through, is that humanity across cultural lines, humanity is effectively the same everywhere. That's kind of the takeaway. Yeah, we do things differently culturally, from one to another. Saudi Arabia and Switzerland, for instance, two places I lived, had almost nothing in common outside of at the sort of human level. We all want the same things for our kids and for our families. We want our kids to inherit a world that's better than the one that we came into, right? And everybody shares that. So, Robbie, what were you going to say? I know that you're chomping at the bit on this one.
I also have a little bit of allergies, so apologies for that. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I think when it comes to culturally, your success in the classroom is going to come from the home. So if you're in a place where the parents and the culture of learning is important, it's going to transfer into the classroom. If you're in a place where kids don't get that at home, and if anything, the parents say, education, there's no point of going to school. There's no point of dealing with this. It's a waste of time. That's when you're going to feel it in the classroom. And that it goes on the micro level from family to family to the city level to the country level. And, that was one of the things that really, pushed me was to start Tech My School, is the fact that, I've traveled to 65 countries. I've seen schools across the globe, work with schools across the globe. And really the golden rope that makes America this wonderful place to live and to, it's a privilege to be in, is the fact that we have an education system where if you work hard, you will succeed. And I truly believe that. I've worked inner city schools. My first 6 years in schools was in inner city schools. And there was never a kid I found that worked really hard, kind of blocked out the noise from that local climate that may have been negative towards school, blocked it out, worked hard. They always succeeded and went on to do great things in their lives. And, just seeing it in Africa and Middle East and India and just different places where if you didn't have the right last name, you're not the right religion, you're not the right gender, not right family, tribe, whatever, it didn't matter how hard you worked, you were kind of doomed before you started. And here in Puerto Rico, it was kind of the opposite of the inner city schools. You have great families, kids working hard, everyone's kind of bought into the system. We want to do well, we want, to succeed. And you have these American kids who are, 17 years old, getting ready to graduate. They read at a 4th or 5th grade level. They've never touched a computer before. They barely speak English. And I'm just thinking of like the seniors I went to high school with, or I'm from San Diego. It's like, it's insane. Like, it's insane, the disparity. And so for me, like, that rope really isn't here. And so I'm like, that's really what drives me and Tech My School and the team, is just the fact that these American kids are the only ones in the country that aren't given this opportunity to be successful, even when they try, even when they're doing the right thing. And so that just doesn't sit. That was the thing. Like, I came here to vacation. I came to Puerto Rico to like write a book, chill, fish. That was my goal, was to fish and relax. It was sabbatical year. I saved up 15 years. Finally, I'm going to take a year off and just write a book and relax. Because I've been working like all these years. And it was within the first month of being here, I was like, I went from new parent to training all staff, from going from being a tech director for one school to being a tech director to 4 schools. That was the first year. And then now we're, however many schools we have. So that's the thing that kind of drives me. And to your point, or to the question, was like, what is the difference? It has a lot to do with culture and family. And if you have a set of parents who believe in you, who love you, who want to give you that great education, and tell you to buy in, you're going to do a lot better job in schools if it's the other way around. But particularly here in Puerto Rico, I mean, we can't, as an American, we can't go around, and we can try, but we can't change other countries. When I was in Nigeria, I was a guest. When I was in Saudi Arabia, I was a guest. But I'm in Puerto Rico. This is my country. This is America. And these are American kids getting ripped off. So that's kind of how we're doing it. And we'll work with any school anywhere, but particularly we're here in Puerto Rico right now.
Well, let's see. I want to dive slightly deeper there just for 1 second. Like, where does this come from, Robbie? Like the whole idea of, yes, having a good family, good neighborhood, and how that impacts. I've seen that anecdotally as well, right? And we needed a whole other podcast series, I think, to really try to truly tackle that issue and talk about solutions and things that have been tried. But for you, just like you, what what planted this kind of seed in you? So when you came into a situation and it wasn't what you wanted it to be, that you decided to make it happen.
Yeah. So I was that kid. I mean, America's a great place because, again, it's about who you are. So I'll backtrack a bit. My grandfather was very poor. He was an Okie, right? So they came from Oklahoma to California, and they were in the agriculture business, farmer. But then he worked really hard, and then he got into construction, and then he built the largest drywalling company in San Diego. He had like 400 or 500 employees, 11 kids. All the kids, my aunts and uncles, they all went to like private school, right? So started poor, he became rich. And so my dad grew up kind of as a rich kid, went to private school, the whole thing. But then tragedy kind of struck. My mom was killed when I was a 5-year-old. She was at a party, wrong time. My dad wasn't there. He couldn't handle it because, like, you know, my wife died when I was there and I couldn't protect her. And that he went on the other path. So he kind of gave up on life, went to drugs, alcohol, the whole thing. Mom's dead. I'm 5 when I was 5. And he was also very proud. We're a very proud family. We don't take subsidies. We don't take charity. We don't take welfare. So I was just this kid who like didn't have electricity in the house, didn't have food, Christmas, no presents. That was that kid. I was like the poorest kid in school. But when I would go to elementary school, there were adults who cared about me. There was electricity. That's where I got food. My only food was the free lunches, right? And so I was very independent. I had to be. By the time I was 12 years old, I was, working and making my own money. By the time I was in high school, I'd kind of forgotten about my poor childhood because I was already making money and I was, self-sufficient. And so when I went to university, my freshman year, I got an opportunity to work at an elementary school. I wanted to work at the library, get paid to study, but they were like, no, that job's taken, but you can work at an elementary school. And I was thinking, I want to be a good dad. Sure, I'll mess around with some kids. It'll help me when I'm a little league coach. And went back to this elementary school, which I hadn't been to since I was in elementary school. And just a flood of emotions all kind of rushed back to me of like the cubbies and, the kids and the lining up and the free lunches and all these things. And I was working with the America Reach program, and we were helping the most, inner city schools and teaching these kids how to read. And I was just connecting with these poor kids who are just going through like hell. Their life at home was hell. And I was just resonating and just working with them so well because I came from that same background. And it wasn't like an intentional thing. It was just very organic. I could just relate and in a way that some of the teachers couldn't because they didn't have that same background. And I just knew right then and there, I'm like, within like a month, I'm like, this is for me. Like, I'm going to be an elementary school teacher. I'm going to help kids. And I'm going to serve. Like, my core values of me as a human is I love to learn and I love to serve. Like, that's just me. And, technology was there because I love learning, and technology, you always have to learn constantly. Like, every day I'm listening to podcasts, I'm trying to keep up. It's just insane. Even now, the growth is exponential. And if you're learning about technology, you're going to share it with someone. And then that's your help, right? So you're always helping teachers. So that's how I kind of transitioned from like regular teacher to tech integrator to, tech director. And so coming here, I mean, again, traveling the world, seeing the poverty, seeing all these different places around the world, we tried our best. We donated it to charities. We worked with orphanages. We worked with other schools that were poor when we were the wealthy school or whatever. And again, we're guests, but here in America, I'm like, I draw a line here because these are my people. I look Puerto Rican. I'm not Puerto Rican, but like, I was like, these are my people. This is America. Like, this is not okay. And so, yeah, I guess that's what made it so I couldn't sleep and relax and just had to work, was just the fact that like every child deserves a world-class education. I think that globally, I'm a global citizen, but definitely in America, we have the finances, we have the people, we have the talent. Like, there's no excuse for us not to have great education in every state and every territory. So I believe that, and working towards that.
I'm gonna give that an amen, and then Kyle, you can go.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to add one quick thing to that, which is you asked earlier, sort of, why did I get involved? And as educators, we always talk about, and it's always true, to almost the fullest degree possible that we talk about. We're in it for kids. We're in it for communities, the betterment of our society, building our democracy, protecting our country, like all of the things that we do as educators, we're there to serve kids. And what's interesting to me is that Robbie, getting to know Robbie and then watching him go through this journey where he was like, I can't vacation when there are kids who are struggling. And then watching him dive in, spend his own money. He didn't tell you this, but he had saved up money to buy a boat so he could fish for that year off, essentially, and ended up not buying a boat and using all of that money to serve the schools that he was serving. So like, that's a little lens into sort of how he operates. And for me, there's probably a little bit of jealousy even that I was watching this guy who was putting his money where his mouth was. And all of us in education have the mouth part down. We all know why we got into it, and we mostly got into it for the right reasons. And those are really great reasons. But to see somebody who like takes that to the next level and really digs in and puts their sort of their life force behind the sort of the theoretical part for the rest of us, it's so motivating to me. And it's just being part of this story ticks so many boxes for me. So.
Well, and that's like what the best educators do is they motivate others from their own passion. The reason I became a college instructor was because the third time I took English Comp 1, I showed up and the professor acted like he liked his life or like showed up singing, dancing, having fun. I'm like, I want to be that guy. Like the more we can demonstrate, model how we as lifelong learners find joy in solving problems, learning new things for these kids, that's how we continue to spark the curiosity, right? Awesome. So, I would love to ask an AI question right now, but I'm not going to. So I'm definitely going to have you on the podcast again. But I do want to kind of round out more about Tech My School, and if you can weave in a little bit of AI, that'd be sweet. But Tech My School, and I know a little bit about the services that you provide, but give me a little bit more on how you could maybe help some of the schools here. We have, again, a large public school system, Toledo Public School. We've got some rural schools with 100 kids total. We have the charter schools. We have a whole bunch of things here in Northwest Ohio, and I'm just interested in illuminating them as to how they might benefit from communicating, partnering, collaborating with you all.
Yeah, no, I thank you for the question. And you kind of just gave us a little alley-oop here because as this process goes, we work with schools, we do this audit, we create this plan, and then we hold their hand and train their teachers and work in partnership with these schools. It's a great program. We have a lot of success. We have a lot of qualitative and quantitative data that prove this, and we've shown the success, over the years. And last January, our team, Kyle and I, and other people from our team, we were in Orlando at the FETC conference, if you know that one. It's a big EdTech conference. And, we're doing our spiel. We're trying to recruit people we have a big EdTech conference that we do here in Puerto Rico in the spring, April 10th and 11th. And we're trying to recruit teachers to go, find speakers. We're trying to partner with EdTech companies to get discounted rates, which we can, definitely pass on to schools in Ohio and elsewhere. But this gentleman walks up to our booth and he goes, hey, tell us your story. We tell him what's going on and how we serve. And he saw the product of how we did it. And he's like, man, this is so great. I would love for you to do this for our schools. And he was kind of hiding his badge. And we were like, okay. I'm like, who are you? Where are you from or whatever? And he was like, yeah, can you do 1,000 schools like this spring? And I was like, no, I would love to do 1,000 schools. But we have 5 people on our team. He's like, yeah, I'm with Google, where we have all of Florida. We'd love for you to do it for all of our schools in Florida. And I'm like, okay, we got to scale this. And so essentially in 2025, what we did was we took the process, ideated it, and put it into a software called Tech Plan Genie. And so essentially you can go through our process, our modules one by one. And by the end of it, really you're having these discussions, you're aggregating the data, because with AI, the power of it is simply the questions you ask and the data it obtains, right? And if you don't know the right questions to ask, you don't have the right data, you're not going to get the right responses. And so as you go through the modules, by the end of it, you click generate your tech plan, and it creates a tech plan for you for all the different modules that you go through. And then what's really cool about it is it creates this bot that knows all the data of your school, so you can have it as a kind of a thought partner and something that you can work with. Where I know as a tech director, I feel like I'm on an island a lot of times. There's only one tech director in the school. A teacher comes to me with a problem, and of course I have to pretend like I know. I'm like, yeah, sure, I totally know that. And then, I'm researching it. But now it's like, I don't necessarily need to research it. I can just work with this bot that knows everything about our school, and it can help me with the tech plan and the vision that we're doing. Another really cool aspect of it is that it has a project management component. So strategic planning in itself is great. We go through the process, we create this great, product through conversation and dissection and data. And then once that product is done, that plan, we're like, okay, we did it. And we put it on a shelf and it sits there for like a year. And then we go back and like, oh yeah, remember that thing we were supposed to do? This software allows you to every month go through the project management component of it, add in the data, add in all the components of what you've done to fulfill your plan. And at the end of the year, it gives you an end of year report that it automatically generates. And it gives you this great, keepsake, this great artifact that you can showcase to your board, to your parents, to your community. And it really kind of eliminates the question of what are they doing in that office all year, right? You might do 1 or 2 trainings in the year and they're like, what are you doing the rest of the year? It's all showcased there for you. So it's a one-on-one product. There's nothing else on the market like it. It's the first tool built for ed tech directors specifically. Tech directors use a lot of tools to help teachers and schools for various reasons, but this is really their tool. And so it's called Tech Plan Genie. And we have a service where you can just take it on and go about the service, and your team builds it and builds your plan and you go forward with it. But there's also a component where they can partner with us, keep us on the line, and we can do it, help remotely, or we can do a white glove service where we come in and do the whole thing with your team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know from hanging out with tech directors, they are some of the most understaffed, overworked, highly stressed people in the world. I will always thank them for what they did during COVID, because that was pretty impressive, with sending Chromebooks home with everybody and all the imaging and security and everything that they deal with on a day-to-day. So the fact that you're helping to support those who need it, while also then being able to, part of it is the doing of the thing is enough. Recording what you're doing to be able to come back and show the assessment or the KPIs at the end of the day, if this platform that you have can help with that, that's awesome. And I can see a huge benefit for lots of folks in a variety of different, not just, traditional education environments, but also some of the non-traditional and even some of the workforce development initiatives that I play in as well.
Yeah, there's kind of like, there's a range of schools, right? Mm. So there's some schools where they have the tech director and the ed tech team, and they feel really secure in their job and their abilities. So they may look at this tool as somewhat of a threat. Like, I don't want this thing to take what I do, right? But really, this is just another tool in your tool belt. It's just going to help you do your job better, because even if 85% of what this is going to do, it's going to give you that additional 15%, and it's just going to save you a lot of time. The Tech Plan Genie itself, the bot, and then the end of your report. So it's going to save you time regardless. And we also put it at a price point that's so cheap that it's going to be like, buying a sandwich for these schools comparatively. Like, my tech budget, and when I was in Nigeria, was $1 million. So it's like we're priced it at $1,000 a year. It's like, it's nothing. But there's a lot of other schools that they don't have the tech team. They can't afford it because it's expensive to bring in like a specialist tech, leader who's going to do all these things. And they usually command a fairly high salary. So it's a principal, it's a head of school, and they're kind of tasked with doing all things. They have all these different hats. I'm in charge of parents and buses and curriculum, discipline and all these different things. And you throw in AI and tech, and now I'm in charge of that. I'm not even a tech guy. This is going to be a lifesaver for those schools, because you don't have to pay for one of these, really expensive ed tech teams to be a part of your school. It's just going to be there to help you and guide you with the team that you do have, to give you a really structured framework that you couldn't have gotten without a really great team. And then even if you're a school that has like an IT guy, So a lot of schools will have like the principals and then an IT guy who basically keeps the internet working. They're network guys. They know networks. They know how to make the internet work and, how to fix computers, but they're not educators. They didn't spend their career in that classroom. So that bridge between how technology impacts instruction and finding the right tools for teaching, but being tasked with it as an IT guy can be daunting and a little intimidating. And so that's also a great tool for them because it's like, this is going to help me fill that gap of, knowing IT, but then now knowing the ed tech part. So we're hoping that schools would really benefit from, regardless of your stature, whether you're a really high performing school that has all the things and this just becomes a luxury, another, cherry on the top, or if you're that school, we really need help. And this is going to give us a framework to really support, our teaching and learning for our teachers.
The tool also provides a connection between IT and educational technology that's not always a clear delineation in a district or in a school. You have people who are really, really good at their specific lane that they travel in, but the overlap in between them in some places, if you're lucky, is great. And you have people who have experience on both sides who can really communicate with each other. But this framework is designed to create shared language, I think, between both groups of people, your tech people and your educators, right? And everybody who's kind of anywhere on that continuum. So what we really want to make sure, I think Robbie used the illustration of everybody rowing in the same direction. That's kind of what this is. It's an efficiency upgrade at its worst case, right? In its best case, it's a replacement. And it's not designed to keep a school from, investing in a person like Robbie or me who would come in as a, technology director to help manage these programs. It's like some of the schools we work at, they will never have a person like this because they will never have the funding for it, right? So it's kind of I like the idea that it's a genie. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's just it's an AI bot. And like we referred to earlier, AI is very, very good at taking really good data sets and making connections that human beings would have a hard time making, and it does it really quickly. And so if you can put your context into it in the way of the data that the system is helping you to collect, because if you say, hey, it needs better data, an untrained person's first question is, well, what data does it need? Well, that's the beauty of it. It walks you through what data you're collecting and it helps you to collect that data. And then once you have all that data, then even your most, lay person on staff who has access to it can ask it questions about, well, what's the difference between a Chromebook and a MacBook? Or if we're going to build a computer lab, what are going to be some of the roadblocks? Or if we're going to roll out this AI policy, where are the bear traps that I might step in? And it's able to draw on our knowledge base that we've built plus your context. And so as it runs through its prompting, it's never looking past, it's not looking at my school's context, it's looking at your school's context. So it knows a little bit about you, in order to answer contextually, specific questions.
Yeah, that's when without going too far down the rabbit hole, right? The chat GPTs and the Claudes and all these things that are large language models that deal with these big, huge data sets with all kinds of wild everything everywhere. That's why I think we get some of the hallucination. If you play with a tool like Notebook LM, where you're being very precise and specific with the data that you have looking at and pulling from, that's when you're going to get the more actionable, more specific things related to your use case. So I love that. I also love as somebody who's been in education in quite a few different environments, college administration or administration in general definitely speaks a different language than the IT folks. So having this tool be able to serve as a little bit of the translator and also the aligning mechanism, I folks, if you don't understand the value and how much value there is a boat ton of value there. Because I think that a lot of the inefficiencies come from that lack of alignment, which is usually from not understanding how those two different groups, and even like the teachers being the third group, communicate just differently, right? Administrations use different language than IT, use different language than the boots on the ground in the classroom, even when they're maybe saying the same thing. So that's phenomenal. I love this thing. I'd love to be able to play with it and see it in action. How do you get involved? How do you get started? What's
7-day free trial?
followers? So
So just go to techlandgenie.com and then just click register and sign up, and you can jump right in. There's no cost to start, and see if you like it. If you like it, keep at it and build a great plan. If you get stuck on a module or you feel like you want further support, there's a way you can reach out to us and keep it moving. And then after a week, if you feel like we're good, we don't need this, or if you just build the plan very quickly, you could technically just go through it, build your plan, and then stop it, because it creates a downloadable, editable PDF.
Very
So
cool.
you can technically go through the process in a week, create your tech plan, download it, and then cancel your subscription, and that's okay too.
I would say, though, as an add-on to that, the efficacy of doing it that way is probably low. And the reason I say that is not that you can't do it. Technically, you could do it. The reason is because of the number of voices that you really want at the table to be able to speak into this data collection piece.
Mm-hmm.
You just have a hard time getting everybody together during that period of time. So what you'd end up with in that case is really like, it's probably your tech department that's going down this road. And then the tech plan that you're going to generate, the strategic planning documents that it's going to spit out, they're completely based on the bias of that one person that went through the process, right? The idea is that it's a whole lot of different people in a lot of different roles that are putting data into the system. So there's just the context is so much deeper.
So if you think about like a school as just a single room and your IT looking through their porthole, there's going to be things in the corners and back here that they don't actually see. You have to have all of the views into the space in order to truly understand how the strategy is going to be impacted and impact.
Correct. So during the process, you create a task force team, and it invites principals, it invites tech people, it invites curriculum people, principals, and then also teachers as well. So we want teachers who are really tech forward thinking, and those lead horses, those stallions of tech. Then we also ask teachers who are kind of the middle of the road teachers who kind of just are followers, like, yeah, I'll use Schoology. You told me to use it, I'll use it. And then we also invite teachers who are a little more reluctant, the more staycationers, the ones that need a bit more prodding, those, older science teachers who feel like I'm a physics teacher,
You just offended every old science teacher, by the way, and they're never going to listen to his podcast again. So good work on that.
Yes. No, but you know what I mean? I'm stereotyping, but the teachers who are like,
We've all had that teacher, though. We've all had that teacher.
That's me. I'm the old science teacher. So I took personal offense to that.
the teacher who's proud almost of like, I don't use tech and that's a fad. Those guys, we want them in the room because we're us tech people, we're the gas, they're the brake, and we need to have both so we don't crash into a wall. I was going to say, like, having all these voices gives you a better picture of how the school actually is and what's the capacity of the school and what the capabilities are.
And I feel like, now more than ever, air quotes, right? We've heard about the disruption in education that's supposed to have been coming for 20 years. I would argue that AI is probably the thing that's actually going to force us to do some of the stuff that's been promised since Sir Ken Robinson had his TED Talk however long ago. Anytime you have this type of disruption or potential new thing coming into the system, it's a great time for you to actually try to analyze and understand where you're at. And from my understanding, you're the tech. What's the name of the tool again?
Tech Plan Genie.
Tech Plan Genie feels like it can help do that. So even at a baseline of where you're at, you might not have ever done anything like this. If you have, maybe it was 5-10 years prior. Now we're at this transition inflection point with what's going on with tech, AI, everything in the education space, funding models being disrupted, all of these things. This is the time more than ever to do something like this. So even if you're not using this tool, I'm going to encourage every educator, administrator out there, you have to do something somehow, some way to analyze where you're at, because you can't determine where you're going to go unless you have a better, solid understanding of you are here, where you're at.
Yeah. One of the privileges we've had is, if you're a tech director, you've worked probably in let's say 5 schools, 3 schools, 5 schools, something like that. And so your context is those schools and maybe a few schools that you visited, let's say 10 schools that you have relative knowledge of. What we've done is we've been able to go into hundreds of schools. And so a lot of the time is you don't know what you don't know. So when we go through our checklist has line items on it that we're continually adding all the time, because we're seeing so many different schools across the world. And when you're going through this process of the checklist or through the rubrics or whatever, you're going to go, with technology, it's all about knowing what's out there. And so you might go through the process. You're like, oh my God, I don't even know what that is. and then you click the little button and it gives you a description of what it is. And you're like, oh my God, our school could use that. Or
Are you referring to like tools? Because there's a glut of tools that are out there.
It's
more and more, right?
It's a mixture of not just the application tools, but just like elements in a school, right? So it could be like cybersecurity audits. And you're like, my school, we never thought of doing a cybersecurity audit. Or, it just depends. There's lots of different things. MDR, what's that? I don't know what an MDR is.
Yeah, so there's hundreds of those items on there. So the purpose, I guess, or the point is if the IT person goes through that checklist, they're going to know all the IT stuff on there, but they're not going to know the education pieces on there, right? Because it's in these 3 buckets. They're going to like ace the systems part of it. But then when it comes to the sort of the culture around adult learning, they're not going to have as much of an idea about it. And when it comes to student empowerment and the ways that those tech decisions are impacting kids, they're not going to have the knowledge base for that, right? So, in the best case scenario, when you have all of the people that we're recommending for the task force, right? You're putting together your team to go through this process. The best case scenario is you work for a school or for a district that has all these roles that you can slot these people in. And it's a pretty efficacious process, right? The purpose of these descriptors is really for like a small school. Like we work with a small Catholic school. It has like 70 kids in it here at Houston. And they just don't have all the positions because they don't have enough people to have all these, roles. They didn't have a tech director. They didn't have a DTL, director of teaching and learning, or a curriculum director. So when it comes to those pieces where the person who's overseeing that part is not an expert, it gives them a whole kind of a directive on, or just a blurb about, this is why we're asking this particular question, right? I don't know what that is. Let me click on it. And you get more information about it so that it helps you to know what you don't know, right? And another benefit of the Genie, I would say, is that if you're in that position where you're missing a piece in the puzzle in terms of your org chart, the agent, the AI agent that's in there, now that it knows all your information in there, it can help you. You'd say, hey, I'm interested in this one thing that we didn't really understand. Explain it to me and tell me how I would ask an IT professional to help me with this, right? And it can help you to sort of figure out how to ask for help, right? And who you'd go to for help. Not like, here's the phone number, here's Bill's IT service. It's like, you're going to need a professional in this industry. Here's the kind of place you'd look for. These are credentials you're looking for. This is the language you might use to talk to them. So it's the idea is just, to me, this is exactly what AI is supposed to be, which is something to help make your life easier and more efficient. And it's not here to take your job. It's here to like make sure that kids are getting the very best of you that they can. We're trying to free up time for you to do the things that are the most important about your job. If you're a principal, maybe you shouldn't be worrying about X, Y, and Z just because you don't have a tech person in place. Let us help with the sort of the efficiency in the areas where you shouldn't be spending your time. You should be spending time in classrooms with teachers, with kids.
Building relationships, which is the foundation of all great education, I'm going to argue, is the relationship that you have with your administration, your boss, your students, your teachers.
Mike, I would love to throw one other thing out there too, which is because you asked originally sort of like, well, what do you guys do and what services do you provide? We spent a long time talking about this tool and we're particularly proud of it. And we feel like it's a really, really interesting thing because it's unique, but we also act as a nonprofit reseller of other people's software. So if you're asking, hey, most of your listeners are in Northwest Ohio, what can you guys do here? Well, one of the things we do is we actually get ridiculously cheap prices on a lot of software that you're already using or that you have decided not to use because you couldn't afford it. And we act as a philanthropic arm for a lot of ed tech companies who really want to give back, but they don't have the bandwidth to build a team for philanthropy. Maybe they're like a 3-year-old company and they're just growing like, wildfire. And we come to them and we say, hey, maybe let us take that on for you. You guys want to give back? Let us be that sort of part. You don't have to hire a team for philanthropy at this point. Let us help you. And we will, using our systems and our frameworks, we can identify the schools that are most in need and we can, figure out a way for you to help them. And so that's another revenue stream for us, is reselling to schools at all levels. So the wealthiest down to the most underprivileged. And we've created an equity-based pricing scheme. Essentially, the more underprivileged your school or your community, the better prices we can offer you. And we still get a small cut of that goes back into our feeding the machine in Puerto Rico, where we're serving these underprivileged kids. So we are trying to come up with creative ways to be able to raise funds and diversify our income in Puerto Rico so that we can serve more kids, more schools. The more money we make, and we'll be shameless about this, the more money we can bring in, the more kids we can serve. That's just our bottom line. Is we're a nonprofit. We're not an expensive C-suite. We're not taking the yacht vacations, and our goal is strictly to raise more money so we can bring on more schools, we can train more teachers, we do more for kids.
And you did say that software, but I believe you also have hardware that you can provide.
We do have some hardware reseller. Maybe our best deals are on VoIP systems on phones, which seems kind of random, but if we go into a school and we see that they have a 20-year-old phone system, a lot of times they're not changing it because they say, well, it works, the phones aren't great, but it works and we can't really afford to replace it. And what we'd say is, because the deals we get, we can actually save you money with no money down. We can replace your phones for you. You get brand new phones. We're able to bundle with internet, with certain providers. Like here in Houston, we work with AT&T and Xfinity. So we can bundle phone service and internet and get it for cheaper than most of the schools are paying right now monthly for these old crusty phone systems. So we're there to help those types of efficiency upgrades for schools. We can do whole districts or one room in one school. It just depends on what schools need. And a lot of that too, but the assessment piece that we do, Robbie was talking about the ITP, the individualized technology plan, that program, and going through that assessment with us, a lot of what it yields would be things things that you didn't know. If you were a small school that didn't realize how many free tools were available, we can help you to find those. Or, we use Google Classroom. Why would we consider a full-featured learning management system, right? Because they've never even heard the term learning management system, or they don't know what an LMS is, or why you'd want one, or how parent communications, and you don't have a Marcom director. So there are all these different ways, and it's impossible to name them all, but there's a million ways that we can help schools with their infrastructure.
So this is great, because now I can ask the question. There's a lot that you do, a lot that we've covered. I'm assuming there's more. What is the best way for people to get to understand a little bit more about what Tech My School does? And then if they are interested, how do they communicate with you to start making it happen?
Yeah, so if you're interested to see the philanthropic part, like us working with schools in Puerto Rico and those kinds of things, you can go to Instagram and just type in Tech My School, follow us, and you'll see every single day us working in schools, training, donating technology, those kinds of things. If you're interested in just seeing how we can help your school come in as a partner and, train with your teachers, create the tech plan, those kinds of things, get you discounted software, get you discounted hardware, you can go on the website, techmyschool.org. There's contact us or info@techmyschool.org. Pretty easy there. If you're interested in the software, Tech Plan Genie, the one we were talking about, just go to techplangenie.com and then, just click register. And if you have, let's say you're already been in education, or maybe you're at a university and you're not really dealing with K-12, and you just have some end-of-life technology. So let's say you have a MacBook that's 4 years old. You're like, we're ready to update our team. We've had these MacBooks for 4 years old. We want to get rid of them. We take on a lot of technology from the mainland and then give it to schools here that have no technology. So let's say you have that MacBook, and yes, it's older, it's 4 years old, but it could work for another 5 years, right? We'll take that and we'll put that into schools. We've donated thousands of devices to schools in Puerto Rico. So we have logistics partners that help us get the absolute lowest price. We'll pick it up from your school or your business, and then we'll donate it to schools. And we're a 501c3, so we can, it'll be a tax deduction for you as well. So not only will we pick it up, you'll also, use it as a tax write-off.
But not just computers, absolutely anything that can be repurposed in a school, basically, we're interested in. So we've had companies donate projectors out of their boardroom, or, We do get a lot of schools because there's a really natural sort of, synergy in the equipment they use and what we need. But we had a school here in Houston, shout out to the Fay School, who donated 21 giant touchscreen Promethean TVs that were maybe 6 or 7 years old that they were replacing. And now we've been able to put those into schools that have never had projection screens or projectors or anything. So we love to repurpose. And also, if you're not looking to have us tug on your heartstrings, but you like the idea of the tax incentive piece, we'll write you a tax receipt for it. And we can also provide you with some really amazing PR, shout out on Instagram and say, hey, check out this company just donated 25, Chromebooks or 25 MacBooks or something. We do that too for companies. And that's such a privilege for us. We love giving shout outs to the people who are, helping us out and helping to supply the schools that we serve.
Awesome. Is there anything else that we should cover today? It's been an hour and it's been a phenomenal hour. It's one of those things that's like 10 minutes. Like it's been fascinating, especially from, my perspective as an educator. Is there anything else though that we should know as we wrap up here?
I would say you can email us at info@techmyschool.org. Any questions you have, and we can get back to you on whatever you want to chat about.
Yeah. And also, if you're interested in us coming into your school and doing the audit, the first part of the audit, we'll do it for free. So we'll come in and we'll do that first kind of, we call it the ITA, the individualized tech analysis. We'll do that part free for you just to kind of get you, just so you can see for yourself a taste of what's out there, what's in your school, and we'll start the conversation. And we're very happy to do that. And then the second part, the ITP, the plan, like taking the data and then putting it into a plan, that's where we would charge. But again, we're happy to work with any school. We have schools that we work with in New York, Oregon, Texas, Idaho, all over the place, Kenya, Greece. So location doesn't matter. And we can work where we do it via Zoom, or we can do it where we fly to you in person. So we're pretty flexible. Or come to our conference down in Puerto Rico, April 10th and 11th, and meet us in person.
I'm going to work on it.
Well, you can come as an attendee, or you can come as a speaker. So if you're an educator and you're hearing this and you have anything at all ed tech related that you would love to talk about, we'll see what we can do to get you in.
There's an option on our website. If you just click on the conference tab, scroll down, and you'll see we're apply to be a speaker, and we're still accepting applications. So we'd love to have you. George Kuros is actually going to be our keynote.
That's
day one. And then day two, our keynote, we're hoping to get the director of Secretary of Education here in Puerto Rico. So we're in talks with him.
Puerto Rico, here I come. This has been phenomenal. Robbie Cobbs, Kyle Sumrow, Tech My School. I appreciate the time. I will do everything I can to make sure that every person in education here in Northwest Ohio and beyond hears this, sees this on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever I decide to distribute all of this. I just appreciate your time. And more than that, I just appreciate what you all are doing to make the world a better place for our kids. Because that's it, right? There's nothing else.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
I appreciate. Hey, can I say one more thing?
No, we're done.
Only other thing I would add too is that if you're involved, if you're in a public school district or in a public or charter school, we are vendors in the TIPS and buy board cooperatives. So if you have district policies where you can only buy from approved vendors, we are approved vendors in both TIPS and buy board, which are two of the bigger collectives. So
awesome. Well, again, Kyle, Robbie, appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you. And keep making it happen.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye.
Everybody.
Have a good one.